Hey, I'm Gina Smith here in San Francisco at Byte TV Studios with an old friend of mine, Ron Posner. He was the CEO at Norton Utilities. He's now a VC, CEO of eChina Cash, and one of the best people I know to talk about payment technology, which is really hot on everybody's minds lately. Hi, Ron. Nice to have you here.
Hi, nice to be here, Gina. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're the expert on payment tech, and we're watching Google and American Express and all these companies try to come forward. What's preventing these companies from really creating a nationwide solution that'll reach most Americans?
Well, as you know, the industry has been controlled and run by the large acquirers, acquirer being Visa, MasterCard, and the payment companies behind them, people like First Data.
Those are the people who are behind the actual machines when you swipe the card.
Yes, the point of sale devices are made by 4 or 5 manufacturers, but the people who actually control what the consumer is doing are obviously the people where the consumer is carrying their card in their wallet. That's Visa, MasterCard mostly, American Express to some extent, and the payment companies who actually deal with the merchants. This is people like First Data.
First Data,
so the industry,
Elevon.
Yes. The industry has an infrastructure that's tightly coordinated and tightly controlled by the big guys, which has prevented a lot of the newcomers from getting any entry. Plus there's technology issues.
Like security.
Security, how do you integrate the mobile phone into this? And how do you also have the new companies who haven't historically been in this industry, like Google and Apple, how do you enable them, or how do they play a role?
Yeah, this is a great point, because let's just take Google, Apple, and let's add American Express to the mix here.
Right.
You've got Google. They've announced Google Wallets.
Yes.
They've got a deal with First Data, which is one of the acquirers, and that's key, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're by no means the winner yet, because do they need all 5 of these companies we call acquirers to win?
Well, you need enough critical mass so that you can reach the consumer and convince the consumer to use your solution. I'll give you an example. There's a company that one of the venture groups I'm affiliated with, a group out of Austin, Texas, called Trellis Ventures. There's a company, they and one of the large venture firms here in Silicon Valley, New Enterprise Associates, funded, called Tabbed Out.
Tabbed Out,
which enables the consumer to pay his bill in a restaurant or bar without physically giving the credit card to the waitress. So one of the big problems, both for the consumer and for the restaurant or bar owner, is the fact that there's a lot of theft that goes on with credit cards that physically leave your wallet, are handed in, and either linger at the bar. They may linger at the bar for 10 seconds, and may linger in the bar all night.
Yeah, people
or
might
the restaurant.
Drink and leave the card and forget.
And it happens a lot.
Yes, I bet.
And the restaurant owner doesn't like it either, because not only is he blamed for theft occasionally, but also these bills, these bar tabs, pile up at the end of the evening, and they have trouble clearing them when they should be serving drinks. Yeah. In any case, Tabbed Out had to first go to the point of sale manufacturers to convince them to embrace their solution.
These are the people who make the systems that
Yes.
swipe the cards.
Yes, and there's 4 or 5 point of sale manufacturers like Verifone and others who make the devices to swipe the cards.
So they first had to do that, go to the point of sale manufacturers, and then what?
So that took a year, just to convince enough of the point of sale manufacturers to embrace this solution. The solution, by the way, you store your credit cards on the server of this company, and then you use your phone, you tap on your phone which of the credit cards you want to use to pay the bill. So your credit card never physically is given to the waitress.
And this is the vision, right? Is that you can take your phone. I mean, this, Google and everyone shares this vision, is that you've got your phone and you swipe it and you can leave your wallet at home.
Exactly.
And that's what Tabbed Out is trying to do.
And doing with today's technology. So some of the technology requires you to have what they called near field communications chip on your phone, which means you can swipe the phone. Okay, but in order to do that, number one, you need a chip on your phone.
Or a sticker.
Which doesn't exist, or a sticker, which doesn't exist today on most phones, if any. And then you need a reader at the other end.
So every store has to have a reader.
So the reader
NFC.
Yes, the reader either has to be built in to the existing point of sale device, which means it has to be upgraded, or a separate reader has to be installed. So you're starting to see the complications around this. In Tabbed Out's case, in addition to point of sale manufacturer, in addition to the technical solution, they need to convince the restaurant owner to start to put a code on your bill. So at the bottom of the bill, it says code 6000, which the consumer then has to, or the patron has to tap into his phone and say, I'm at 6000, I'm at restaurant 6000.
Yes, you're adding another step for the consumer, and you're forcing some BizDev people to actually go to every single restaurant in every single city. And
this exemplifies the problem you alluded to earlier of why hasn't this happened more rapidly? There's a lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of moving parts. Now, somebody watching this might say, whoa, Google, American Express, why aren't they able to get all the moving parts in order and get them greased up and moving quickly? I mean, can't Google get First Data's attention and all the point of sale manufacturers' attention quickly?
Google announced Google Wallet. They have a team of people who are trying to figure out how to implement it on your phone and in the retail environment. So yes, they're trying, just started really. American Express has announced an attempt, Apple's announced an attempt, but they're all just starting and they're all running up against the same problem of the industry infrastructure. Obviously the big guys, the Visa, MasterCards, don't want them there unless they're going to get a piece of the action. They don't want to be bypassed. Okay, so the second that the big guys, which include the credit card companies and the banks to some extent, because they're making money off the debit cards.
That's right.
Okay, so as long as the big guys feel they're not being excluded and they're being offered a cut of the activity, a cut of the action, they'll go along with it. But right now, no one's clear who's going to be the winners.
There's no clear winner now.
Not yet.
Not yet. Do you think there will be one in the next year,
I think,
2 years?
I think what's clear now, there's going to be a lot of industry disruption, okay, over time. So it's no one knows who the winners are going to be, or even who all the players are going to be, but there's going to be disruption. It's just now starting. The big guys, Visa, MasterCard, are obviously have their own experiments going on because they don't want to be bypassed, as I said earlier.
Sure, you've got Citibank with Citi Wallet, and
yes,
all the bank companies are trying to do apps, but they have the same problems everybody else does, which is getting together with these nationwide point of sale systems and acquirers.
So we just had a valuable lesson in the last 5 years in China. You mentioned I was CEO of eChina Cash, where we went into the market naively feeling we could provide a real service in the payment industry. We started with prepaid cards where you have to put cash on the card because only 3% of the Chinese population actually have bank accounts and therefore have credit cards. So most people don't have bank accounts or credit cards. They have cash under their mattress. So we started with getting to the consumer through the large Chinese corporations, like the largest gasoline station owner, Sinopec, the largest life insurance company, China Life, to have them give the cards for free to the consumer, their consumers, and have the consumers put cash on to start using the cards. The big companies there loved it because there's about 20% cash leakage in the economy as the cash moves from the gas station up to corporate headquarters or from the life insurance agent up to corporate headquarters. So the first time they had a cash control mechanism. But we were starting out at a very primitive end of the business. Now all of a sudden they want to leapfrog it by bringing in the cell phone and allow you to pay with your cell phone, either at the gas pump or in your, with your insurance agent or the cable TV agent.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring up China because, of course, there's the octopus solution in China.
In Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, rather. And
yes.
So everybody's got their octopus card, and that's their one card, right? And they pay for everything with it?
Yes.
But you could never have that here currently in the United States because there's so many moving parts and it isn't government mandated.
Well, Hong Kong was unique in this regard. The octopus is owned by the transportation companies in Hong Kong. The the subway, the ferry, and the bus owners, or the bus corporations, which are all government,
right,
Hong Kong
which
government.
Is the government.
It's Hong Kong government, city of Hong Kong government entities. They created this by first using it on transportation, so on the subway, and then they went with that card, once it got hold, to start taking a hold on the subway, on the bus, on the ferry, and started going around to the retail establishments like Starbucks and others, so you could use the card there. But as you said, it's a very unique situation. It's probably not going to be duplicated here, at least in our lifetime.
All right, in closing, for people who are watching the payment tech wars as they begin here in the United States with Google, American Express, Apple and Square, looking, what's the best prediction you think we could give them? It'll be what, 18 months before this shakes out at least?
We're talking probably longer, probably talking 3 or 4 years, and the best prediction is that we'll all be using our cell phones at some point to pay our bills, to pay our retail bills.
Yes, but not this decade.
Not right away.
Not right away.
It's going to be a long time, a lot of experiments, a lot of missteps, but eventually it'll happen.
All right, well, I want to thank you very much, Ron, for coming into the studio. It's nice to have you and see you after all these years.
Yes, great to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, so you heard it from Ron Posner. It'll be 4 or 5 years before Americans nationwide will be able to have a swipe for pay solution that works across a majority of retailers for the majority of Americans. For Byte Television here in San Francisco, I'm Gina Smith.